So we've been talking over these last few weeks about the process that the believer in Jesus Christ goes through as he comes to experience the new life that Christ has given him. We are to put away these old patterns of life. Last time we talked about the fact that we have already been there, Paul says in verse 7 in Colossians 3, in these you too once walked when you were living in them. We've been there, we've done that, we've experienced the shame and the guilt of living with these practices. And now he challenges us one more time here in verse 8 of Colossians 3. But you must now put them all away: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. So another list. Now we saw a list back in verse 5. Immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, covetousness. And when we looked at those, we would notice that those are kind of the internal things that ruminate in our hearts. And now in this list, he kind of focuses on some of the external things, the ways that our sinful practices and habits affect other people. He talks about anger and wrath. And as we look at those two things, we might say, well, isn't that the same thing? Well, certainly they're related. But anger, the word here refers to kind of the boiling, seething, internal bitterness and anger that churns inside of us sometimes, whereas wrath refers to a sudden outburst of anger. Certainly that inner seething often leads to outbursts of anger toward other people who may or may not have even been a part of what we're angry about in the first place, but that's what happens when we interact. Malice, simply evil doing, and slander, something that results often from our anger and our wrath, is slandering other people, speaking things about them that are not true and damaging their character. And finally, he says, obscene talk. This certainly refers to the kind of language that is not befitting the believer in Jesus Christ. Over in Ephesians chapter 5, Paul has another list of practices that we need to set aside as Christ followers. And there he talks about coarse jesting. Filthy language that would come out of our mouths is not what should be characterizing the believer in Jesus Christ. So Paul just one more time challenges us. These are the things that need to be set aside. It's interesting to note that he says, you must put them all away. The actual phrase there literally is usually a phrase used for taking off a set of clothes. Much like you would come home from a hard day's work and take off your dirty clothes and throw them into the laundry and put on clean clothes. The believer in Jesus Christ is to take off these old ways, these filthy ways, and put on a new set of clothes, this new life. Let's give every effort by the power of the Holy Spirit to live in light of this new life that Christ has given us.